The water closed over her head as panic seized her body. I lunged forward, my hand finding her wrist beneath the surface. In that moment, as I pulled my terrified boss from the deep end, neither of us could have imagined how this single swimming lesson would transform both our lives forever. If you're enjoying this story of unexpected connection and personal growth, please hit that like button and subscribe to the channel for more heartfelt stories that remind us how life's most meaningful relationships often begin in the most unexpected ways. I still remember my first day at Meridian Publishing. The sleek glass building towered over the financial district, intimidating in its perfection, much like Victoria Winters herself. At 38, Victoria had become the youngest executive editor in the company's history, known equally for her brilliant editorial instincts and her ice-cold demeanor. "Marcus Chen," she said, not looking up from my resume when I entered her office. "Columbia Journalism, 3 years at The Atlantic, impressive recommendations." Her voice carried no warmth, just clinical assessment. "You'll be handling our new environmental series. Janet will show you to your desk." That was it. No welcome, no pleasantries. Just expectations and dismissal. The next 6 months followed a similar pattern. I worked tirelessly on the environmental series, often staying late into the evening. Victoria would occasionally materialize beside my desk, review my work with sharp, incisive comments, then disappear back to her corner office. The other editors warned me, "Don't take it personally. Victoria doesn't do personal. Just professional excellence." I might never have known anything more about her if not for the company retreat that spring. Meridian had rented a lakeside resort for team building and strategic planning. I was packing up my laptop after the first day's sessions when I noticed Victoria standing alone on the dock, staring at the water with an expression I'd never seen on her face before, something like longing mixed with fear. Curiosity got the better of me. I approached cautiously, expecting to be rebuffed. "Beautiful evening," I offered. She startled slightly. "Yes. It is." After a pause, she added, "The lake reminds me of summers when I was young." It was the most personal thing she'd ever said to me. I took a chance. "Are you going swimming tomorrow during the free time?" Her shoulders tensed. "No. I don't swim." "You don't like swimming?" "I don't know how." The admission seemed to pain her. "Never learned." The words tumbled out before I could stop them. "I could teach you." Victoria turned to me with genuine surprise. For a moment, I thought she might laugh or dismiss me outright. Instead, she studied my face with an intensity that made me nervous. "Why would you do that?" "Because everyone should know how to swim," I said simply. "It's never too late to learn." After what felt like an eternity, she nodded once. "Tomorrow morning. 6 a.m. Before everyone else is up." I barely slept that night, wondering if I'd made a terrible mistake. Victoria Winters was my boss, my intimidating, perfectionist boss. What had possessed me to offer swimming lessons? The next morning dawned cool and misty over the lake. I arrived at 5:55 to find Victoria already waiting, wearing a conservative black swimsuit and a determined expression. "I should warn you," she said without preamble, "I've tried lessons before. It didn't go well." "What happened?" I panic. When my feet can't touch the bottom, I panic. The vulnerability in her admission shifted something between us. This wasn't the untouchable Victoria Winters of the corner office. This was just a person with a very human fear. "We'll start where you can stand," I promised. "We won't go deeper until you're ready." That first lesson was awkward but productive. Victoria approached swimming like she did everything else, with fierce determination and analytical precision. She asked questions about buoyancy and technique, frustrated when her body wouldn't immediately comply with what her mind understood. "Relax," I kept telling her. "The water will hold you if you let it." "I don't like relinquishing control," she admitted, after her third failed attempt to float on her back. "I noticed," I said, and for the first time since I'd known her, Victoria Winters laughed. We continued the lessons each morning of the retreat. By the third day, she could float independently and was practicing a basic freestyle stroke in the shallows. On our final morning, she asked me to stay beside her while she ventured into slightly deeper water. "I won't let anything happen to you," I promised, and was surprised by the intensity with which I meant it. She nodded, took a deep breath, and pushed off from the sandy bottom. For a few glorious seconds, she swam independently in water over her head. Then the panic hit. Her strokes became frantic, her breathing erratic. I moved quickly, catching her wrist and steadying her. "I've got you," I said quietly. "You're okay." Her fingers gripped my arm with surprising strength as she found her footing. "I'm sorry," she said, once her breathing steadied. "Old fears die hard. You have nothing to apologize for. You're making incredible progress." She looked at me then, really looked at me, perhaps for the first time. "Thank you, Marcus. Not just for the lessons, but for—" She hesitated, "for your patience." Back in the office the following week, I expected things to return to normal, Victoria the untouchable boss, me the diligent employee. But something had shifted. She began stopping by my desk not just to discuss work but to ask how my weekend had been or mention an article she thought might interest me. 2 weeks after the retreat, she appeared beside my desk as I was preparing to leave. "I joined the YMCA," she said without preamble. "They have a pool." "That's great." She hesitated, then added, "Their schedule doesn't work well with mine. I was wondering if you might consider continuing the lessons. I'd compensate you for your time, of course." "You don't need to pay me," I said. "But yes, I'd be happy to keep teaching you." And so began our strange new routine. Twice a week, we'd meet at the YMCA pool after work. Victoria was a dedicated student, methodically working through each technique I taught her. Gradually, her fear of deep water diminished. More surprisingly, the rigid boundary between boss and employee began to dissolve. In the echoing space of the pool, away from the pressures of the office, Victoria slowly revealed pieces of herself. I learned that she'd nearly drowned at age 8 during a family vacation, which explained her fear of water. I learned that she lived alone in a downtown apartment with 2 cats named after literary editors, Maxwell and Perkins. I learned that despite her success, she often felt like an imposter in the publishing world. In turn, I shared my own stories, my immigrant parents' sacrifice to give me educational opportunities, my passion for environmental journalism, my failed engagement 2 years prior. "It's strange," she said one evening as we sat on the edge of the pool after a particularly successful lesson. "I've spent my entire career maintaining professional distance. I believed it was necessary for respect. And now?" She considered the question. "Now I wonder what I've missed." 6 weeks into our lessons, Victoria could swim confidently across the deep end. Her technique wasn't perfect, but her fear had transformed into determination. We celebrated with coffee after our session, the first time we'd spent time together outside the pool or office. "I have a confession," she said, cradling her mug. "I could have stopped the lessons weeks ago. I'm comfortable enough in the water now." "Oh." I felt an unexpected disappointment. "Well, congratulations. That was the goal." "But I didn't want to stop," she continued, meeting my eyes. "These lessons have become important to me. You've become important to me." The honesty in her voice caught me off guard. "You've become important to me too." Something changed between us that night, a recognition that what had begun as swimming lessons had evolved into something neither of us had anticipated. Not romance, not exactly, but a deep friendship that defied the conventional boundaries of our professional relationship. The following Monday, Victoria called me into her office. For a moment, I feared she'd reconsidered our friendship, decided it was inappropriate. Instead, she offered me the opportunity to lead a special investigative project on climate change, a career-making assignment. "You're the right journalist for this," she said. "This has nothing to do with our personal connection. If anything, I've been harder on you to ensure there's no appearance of favoritism." The project consumed the next 3 months of my life. Our swimming lessons became less frequent as I traveled for research and interviews. But Victoria remained my most trusted editor, pushing me to dig deeper, write more clearly, find the human stories within the data. When the series finally published, it received national attention. Environmental groups cited our findings, and a congressional committee requested our documentation for upcoming hearings. It was the most meaningful work of my career. The night the final piece went live, Victoria invited me to dinner to celebrate. Over pasta and wine, she said, "I need to thank you, Marcus." "For what?" "You're the one who gave me this opportunity." "Not for the series." She twisted her napkin slightly. "For the swimming lessons. For seeing me as a person, not just a position. Before you, I'd convinced myself that professional success required personal isolation. You showed me it's possible to be both excellent at what you do and connected to the people around you. You taught me something too," I admitted. "You showed me that vulnerability isn't weakness. Watching you face your fear of water, that took more courage than anything I've ever done." Victoria smiled. "We make a good team." "We do," I agreed. 1 year after that first swimming lesson, Victoria and I stood together on the same dock where it all began. Meridian's annual retreat had returned to the lakeside resort, but everything else had changed. Victoria was still my boss, but she was also my closest friend. The office had transformed under her evolving leadership style, still demanding excellence but now balancing it with genuine connection. "Ready?" she asked, looking at the clear blue water. Together, we dove in. Life rarely follows the path we expect. Sometimes the most profound connections form in the most unlikely circumstances, when we're vulnerable enough to ask for help or brave enough to offer it. Victoria taught me that strength comes in many forms, and I showed her that it's never too late to conquer old fears. What began as simple swimming lessons became a masterclass in human connection. If this story resonated with you, please like this video and subscribe to our channel for more stories about the unexpected ways our lives intertwine and transform. Remember, the most meaningful changes often begin with a single act of courage, whether that's learning to swim as an adult or reaching across professional boundaries to see the person behind the title.